What's going on, everybody? John Eric Pauli here with My MMA News, and today's guest is coming off a third-round knockout at Bellator 283 over Romero Cotton. Pleased today to be joined by Dalton Rosta and his guest there. Dalton's dog is joining us as well. Dalton, thanks for being here, man. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you for having me.
Yeah, no problem at all, man. It was a big win for you here. It's a fight you've been waiting for a long time. Before we get into the specifics of this fight here, I do want to back up to the weigh-ins. There was a whole big thing where you guys got to pushing and shoving each other. What took place there?
So, a little bit before the shove, we were talking back and forth. I told him, I was like, you look nervous. He was like, maybe a little bit, aren't you? And I was like, too late to be scared. And how do you feel about like swearing and explicit material on?
Go
Okay.
for it.
So he was saying something back, but I couldn't hear him. So I said, take the dick out of your mouth and speak up. And he continued to say something else. I couldn't hear him, but I turned and flexed. And when I flexed, I nudged him with my arm by accident, completely by accident. And we went back. He started pushing me, as you can see, and everything. We went backstage. I originally thought I did nudge him. So I even offered him an apology. I was like, listen, I'm not a dirty fighter. I was like, all bullshit aside. I said, that legitimately was an accident. He was like, yeah, sure, but acting like an asshole about it. I was like, all right, whatever. And then I watched it back earlier or later from the straight angle. And it didn't look like I nudged him. It looked like he was just fucking shoving my arm. So I was like, oh, maybe the shove I felt on my arm when I was looking forward, I was like, maybe that was just him the whole time, like shoving my arm. And so you seen on my Instagram story, I went and said, like, fuck you and an apology. And went and made that big post. And then later, 2-3 hours later, I seen a reporter that was front row at an angle from this. He was about at like 9 o'clock. And if we were at 12, and he was looking straight at us. And you could see from that angle that I did that just barely nipped, just like kind of like that with my arm. And so it was too late to take the post back. It was already up for 2 or 3 hours and everything already happened. And he was acting like an asshole about the apology anyways. We're about to fight. There was a lot of animosity and stuff, so who cares?
Yeah, and as you're saying all that too, right, you can tell the emotion, you can tell the drama. And right before the fight, we did an interview and we talked a little bit about it. And you were saying how it was like the fourth time that this fight was being booked and whatnot. So after going through that whole entire lead up to it, a fight's being canceled, getting to the weigh-ins, having the issue that you just talked about there, what's the emotions like on fight day and leading into fight night in the locker room and all that? Are there, whether it be not necessarily nerves, but just like say some animosity? What's kind of the emotions like? Or were you pretty calm the whole entire time?
I'm pretty calm. So for me, if I get nervous, and I'm not going to say that the nerves don't exist, but there's a lot of people that say like, oh, the fighters that say they don't get nervous, they're lying, they're bullshit, and everybody gets nervous. Like whenever it comes time to fight, I really don't. If there's any nerves at all, it might be in the beginning of fight week, just with the anticipation and everything of the fight, trying to make weight, and I think it's more so like getting to the fight, like, all this shit can go wrong. It's only a week before. I don't want to fucking roll ankle. I don't want to get sick with food poisoning. Got to watch what I'm eating. Got to actually make weight. Hope my opponent makes weight. It's all that, the anticipation, the anxiety with all that. But as I get closer to the fight, like it's like a switch turns off. It's like I'm in chains like the whole time in camp. There's certain things I can't do to my training partners and certain things that I can't throw or hit them with or anything. And now like that fight time's approaching, it's like I'm being unshackled, they're taking the chains off. And now as I'm walking to the cage, I'm like completely free to do whatever I want, you know what I mean? And at that point, I'm like cold, like emotionless. And like I have just like one goal in mind and I'm focused towards that, and he's an obstacle in a way that got to be removed. So as for nerves on fight day and when I'm walking to the cage, when I'm in that cage, there's nothing there. There's no nerves, nothing. And I looked straight across the cage. I was staring at him in the eyes the entire time, and he did not want to look at me. I knew from the very beginning he was broke already. He didn't want to be in there with me.
And that absolutely showed in the performance. We're going to get to the performance in a second, but I did want to ask you about one thing that you said in that answer there that I don't know why, like when you said it, just kind of clicked to make me want to ask this question. As a guy that obviously you're so into fitness and whatnot, you said food poisoning, like worried about getting food poisoning. Actually, when you said that, I'm like, now that I think about it, there have been a few cases that over the years here where fighters had to either pull out because they've been sick with food poisoning or they show up on fight night and aren't themselves because of food poisoning. How does food poisoning end up happening on fight week? Is it because your body's in such like a big cut mode that week? Like what's the reason why?
No, I think it's more of just bad luck, you know. Salmonella is in certain foods, you know, poultry, chicken, turkey, stuff like that, white meats. And I mean, usually when you get closer to the fight, I'm more of a red meat guy. I eat it when I'm dieting. I mean, when I'm cutting weight. I even eat it during fight week. But I usually eat red meat twice a day out of my 3 to 4 meals during fight camp when I'm cutting, whenever I'm dieting. During fight week, I'm only doing one. I'll do like one red meat for lunch, and I do chicken during dinner. And it's like eggs in the morning. Eggs and chicken can both give you salmonella. I actually had food poisoning before my pro debut and the week of. So I went into my fight on fight week with food poisoning. And like I was bedridden the day of like traveling out to my fight, the day before that as well. And I couldn't train, couldn't practice. Luckily, I was fighting the 205, so I didn't really have to cut weight. But I got food poisoning. It sucked. I was like thinking to myself, man, if I get hit in the body, I'm going to shit myself. Like, but there was never one time where it crossed my mind where I was like, I'm going to pull out of this fight. You know, I don't know where, and trust me, it was very bad. And I understand the fighters that do it because they want to put on the best performances possible. They don't want to go into the cage with any disadvantage that they can. But I just felt like I was so far ahead of my opponent, like levels above, that once I got, you know, food poisoning, it was just more of like an inconvenience rather than anything else. Like it wasn't inhibiting my performance or anything like that. So I just went through with the fight, you know, and I had it 4 or 5 days before the fight, and I was still having all the symptoms the day of. You know, it wasn't as bad, but I was still having all the symptoms the day of. And as I said, you can get that from anything. You can get it from chicken, turkey, eggs, and I believe I got it from turkey the day before I left for my fight, like a turkey burger. So it's very likely for it to happen.
Well, I was going to say it didn't affect your performance at all because obviously we know you have that nice undefeated record. And now let's start getting into this fight now here. One last kind of little side thing before we get in the exact X's and O's of it. Your walkout when you came out. I really like that jersey you were wearing. What was that?
That's Glaxon. So the supplement company I'm sponsored by, they're new. They've been around for like 2 years. They did like a collab with a like jersey or apparel company, and they made those a few months back. They ended up having an extra one. They wanted me to wear it out for my walkout. I was going to wear their gear regardless, but my last fight I wore Steelers jersey, so it was like more along the lines of keeping it as a jersey. So decided to do the Glaxon jersey, and it was really nice. The only thing is like my compression shorts were so short, you know, and they're riding up my legs. So I have bigger legs, and then the jersey was like a size bigger than what I asked for. So it was like, it looked like I was wearing like a dress a couple times there. So very nice jersey though.
Yeah, it was. It was a sweet jersey, and it was a sweet performance. Let's get into it here. Opening round, he comes out, no surprise. He's looking for a takedown. You were able to stuff it right away. You're landing some big shots. Obviously, I'm sure that was the game plan coming in. Couldn't have been scripted any better. When he shot in that first time and he couldn't get that takedown, did you kind of know right then and there, like, I've got him right now, he's done for?
So I knew I was going to stuff his takedowns, but I figured, you know, after the first one, he was going to start spam, which he did. He shot 5 times in the first round, defended all 5. But I thought he was going to start spamming it more and start chain wrestling a little bit more, which there was a moment in the fight where he shot like 3 times and like striking combination I was throwing against the cage, and it was kind of like all chained together. Like he shot, I defended, I started throwing punches again, he shot again, I defended, he started throwing punches again, he shot one more time, and I had to kick out. Besides that, though, it wasn't like he wasn't throwing the takedowns in bunches like I was expecting. But I knew I was going to defend his takedowns. I was just expecting more from him because I was hearing from my coach at the Mat Factory, the shirt I'm wearing right now, Isaac Grilly. He had guys he coached in college too, for Pitt Johnstown. He coaches for Burrell in high school. And he was talking about like he had guys that wrestled against him in college. And they all talked about how strong he was, like just physically strong and like strongest person they ever wrestled. And King Mo down at ATT was saying like how strong he was. And you just hear this all the time. You hear Josh Thompson here talking about it on his podcast, saying DC says it, and all these top guys at AKA talk about how he's the strongest guy they've ever wrestled with. And then when I got my hands on him, not just defense wise, but like whenever I shot on him and took him down in the first round, and then whenever I was like clinching with him against the cage, I don't know what they were talking about, bro, because I didn't feel any strength. And I'm a strong individual myself, but I could usually tell when somebody else is strong. Like, for example, my training partner, Austin Vanderford, very strong. I think I'm stronger. I don't think I've ever met anybody my weight that's as strong as me, but Austin's very strong. And I could feel it when I wrestled. But when I was going against Romero, I felt like I was wrestling a little kid, honestly. Like, I felt like I could ragdoll him. I felt bigger. I felt stronger. I felt faster. Like, I felt like he had nothing for me.
I say, how much of that too, where like they're saying he's so strong, is maybe MMA wrestling being different than just like a freestyle type wrestling? I'm sure if you guys are doing a wrestling drill, maybe it's a little bit different, but going out there in the cage, obviously it's a little bit different. There's a lot more stuff going on. You think maybe that's part of it too, possibly?
No, strength is strength. You can feel it wherever. You know what I mean? But MMA wrestling is different than regular wrestling, but man, I would ragdoll him in a real wrestling match too. And it's like I told people all week long in the media, I'm gonna go out there and not wrestle. I'm a better wrestler. And you can see the reporters and the journalists like looking around each other, looking for everybody else's reaction when I'm saying shit like this. So it's like, Muhammad Ali. It's like I know you guys got him all picked whenever he's gonna fight Joe Frazier, and he's like, I'm gonna show you how great I am and everything. It's like one of those moments where like everybody's looking around. It's like you're saying you're a better wrestler than a 3-time NCAA champ, and you have no credentials yourself. And it's like I know that's what they're thinking, and it's like I know they don't believe me, but then I went out there and showed them. If we stepped on a wrestling mat, the same thing would happen, And there's going to be people out there thinking the same thing, but it's like I can go out there and prove it. I can back everything I'm going to say, and I don't want to be a has-been. If I would have stayed in college wrestling instead of transferring to play football, I would have did the same thing he did, if not better. And the only way I could have proved that is if I stayed. So it's all hypothetical now. But I mean, we've seen me out wrestle him in the cage. Defending all his takedowns, same sprawl that I would be using during a wrestling match, same double leg I'd be using during a wrestling match. And there was multiple times where I took his back against the cage where I could have lifted him, but I was using his opportunity to land some punches, land some knees, soften him up and everything too. But I could have easily suplexed him, took him back to the mat, again, scored another couple takedowns just to pad my stats. But I'm not there to pad stats. I proved my point. I was the better wrestler, and that was that. So it was time to knock him out whenever I did.
Yeah, you absolutely did prove your point there. And again, great performance. I do want to ask a few other things about this win here. Second round, right? That's the round that, things really, really, really shifted right in your favor. I obviously had a great first round, but that second round, you were really piecing him apart. You were landing such big shots. Were you surprised that he was able to sit there and eat a lot of those shots? Because I think there was one moment where you just landed a straight right hand right on the chin, and he just ate it. And it was a shocking thing to see somebody eat a punch that landed so square the way how you landed it.
Yeah, you're talking about the one where I stepped to the side, like I was kind of like slipping, but I took a side step and then landed the right hand. But I was thinking the same thing you were. Right after I landed the right hand, I'm like, this motherfucker ain't going down. I'm like, this motherfucker got a chin on him, And eventually his chin gave in. It can only take so much damage. I hit really fucking hard. Yes, anybody that I spar with, small gloves, we go pretty light at the gym. You know what I mean? If you've seen the video Bellator posted of me and Johnny going together, it was like it's light punching, light movement, stuff like that. But unless we're wearing headgear. But with like big gloves, when we're going like all out, even when I'm not throwing with 100% power, yes, anybody that spars with me, bro, I hit fucking hard. Hard. Like just about, if I wanted to, just about every punch could be a knockout punch. And this motherfucker was eating shots that I was landing clean, and I was throwing them hard. And I'm like looking at this dude. I'm like, bro, if I could take anything from this fight, and give you any credit where it's due, it's your fucking chin. It ain't your wrestling. It ain't your striking. It ain't your speed or your strength that everybody was talking about. It's your damn chin.
Yeah, I was able to eat it for a while. He couldn't eat it the whole fight because that third round, then you finally put his lights out there. Big knock and clean knockout, not TKO, KO win. Just take us through that sequence. There's that big Superman punch that you landed. Just tell everybody take them through that knockout there.
Yeah, it's crazy. They snubbed me of that on the results. They labeled it a TKO instead
What?
of KO.
There's no way. That had to be a KO.
They labeled it as a TKO, bro. They snubbed me so bad. But I mean, it is what it is. I was standing over top of him when he was unconscious, and he was like, you see in his eyes, he's like trying to move and trying to get up, and he's like this, like his body isn't responding.
Yeah.
And the canvas woke his ass back up. His arms went above his head like this. If you look at it from the other angle, it looked like he snapped his fucking knee. It looked like he tore his ACL by the way he dropped everything. It's like, man, they really snubbed me. But yeah, I mean, on the cage, I had like in a position, obviously I was holding there, just landing some shots, trying to soften him up a little bit again. And then I had like an arm drag position. I could have used the arm drag position to take his back, but something that me and Steve Mocco were working is it was kind of from the other position where we were posting instead of using the arm drag. But whenever I was there, I thought immediately of like what me and Steve Mocco were working on. And it was a similar position, but it was arm drag. And I arm dragged it across, and me and Mocco were talking about the only way he can exit with the post is away from you, and he's going to run. So you can start hitting with some hooks. But the thing is, I arm dragged him, so this arm was occupied. But once I let go, still, the only way he can exit was that way. So that's why I seen the two hooks. I threw two hooks instead of one right away, and then I followed up with the right hand. He started backing out this way now. So once he started backing out this way, and he was just pretty much running at this point, he was walking backwards, but he wasn't engaging at all. Decently far away from me. So at this point, I threw the hook. I think it grazed him. And I took the opportunity. I was like, all right, I'm going to let him back up a little bit further. And this is my chance to do a Superman punch or a flying knee, because I wanted to do it all fight long, but I didn't want to give him my hips. He's going to try and wrestle me. Anytime I go up in the air, anytime I become airborne, he's going to use it as an opportunity to get a hold of my hips, my legs, whatever, and try to take me down. And as good of a wrestler as I am, if he gets in deep and I'm in the air, there's no defending it, So I waited for the opportunity. It presented itself. I landed it flush. It couldn't have been any more picture perfect. The only thing that could have made it better is that would have knocked him out, but it didn't. But that one obviously, dazed him. And then followed up with the left hook right after that, about a split second later, and put his lights out. So, and like you said, it was a KO. It wasn't a TKO.
Yeah, I even opened it up by saying knockout win too, not TKO win. That definitely should have been a knockout. I'm surprised. They announced it afterwards too as a knockout. I'm surprised they went back and changed. It doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, I wanted to ask you too about your post-fight interview in the cage there with John McCarthy. I know you had some words for Josh Thompson there. Just kind of tell everybody a little bit about that. Is there any beef? Did you guys squash it? What was that all about?
No, it's not any beef. I'm not sensitive at the end of the day. He can say whatever he wants, but I saw his opportunity. They finally gave me the mic, and he's always on the mic on his podcast. I never get a chance to say anything back or, take some shots at him. So it was a little friendly, a little serious, because he did say these things, but it wasn't like, I hate you, Josh. It was like, I like Josh as a commentator. I like Josh as a podcast host, everything. Like, he has great material, and I just like him as a guy, but, I saw the opportunity. He's always doubting me, always saying these things. Like when he said I didn't have a gas tank to go with Ty Gorder, he was saying that Ty Gorder could knock me out, all this other stuff. Obviously, I had the gas tank. If anything, Ty Gorder was the one tired. Shut him out on scorecards. He's, like I said in the interview, he said Tony Johnson was going to knock me out. I outstruck him and then shut his ass out on the scorecard. And then he said Romero Cotton was going to put me on my back and wrestle the shit out of me. I'm sure you watched the podcast after, you didn't watch it before. So he's saying all this shit and saying that Romero Cotton is going to end up on his back, and because John McCarthy asked. And so that's why I had to prove that point with the wrestling. And then I knocked his ass out, just like I said. So once they got me on the mic, I saw it as an opportunity to, put all that out there. And I think the crowd loved it, Whenever I was saying all this shit, the crowd was going pretty crazy. So
Yeah, they definitely were, and you proved your point too. Hopefully, maybe now put some little respect on your name there. I'm sure they definitely will after that performance. What's next for you now, though? I know a lot of fighters don't like that question, but I'm sure the fans want to know. Obviously, huge win for you, moves you up in the rankings. I'm sure you probably want one of those top guys next.
Yeah, I went John Salter next. He's ranked number 4. I'm ranked number 6 now. I moved up 2 spots. I mean, it makes sense, because I mean, 2 of my teammates are in the top 3. One's champion, the one's ranked number 2. Uh, so I mean, John Salter makes sense next. 2 spots up. Tokov is ranked number 5, but I'm pretty sure he's going to get the next title shot. So yeah, John Salter. I think that's perfect for me. I think it's a great matchup. He's a tough fighter, so it's another step up. It's very good for my resume at the same time, but I think I match up so well. I mean, my speed and my strength, my explosiveness, I don't think he can handle that. And I do very well against southpaws as well. It's opening up the right hand, my favorite weapon. So at the end of the day, he's going to try and wrestle me too. But you see what I just did to a 3-time NCAA champ. He's not going to be able to take me down. He has good jiu-jitsu. If I decide to take him down, I have to worry about that there. But, I have good jiu-jitsu as well. Just haven't showed it. One of those people, don't show all your tricks if you don't have to. So don't show your whole entire hand. And that's what I'm doing. I'm saving it for whenever I need it, because there's going to be somebody along the way that draws that out. And I don't want film of it.
Well, that's an exciting matchup too. Hopefully, we'll be able to see that one. One last thing now before we roll out, I got to ask you about now that you're back in Pittsburgh. I'm sure you're a big Steelers fan. I think you wore a Steelers jersey out, right? The one time you walked out, you were Steelers jersey?
Yeah, Casey, one of my friends. I'm sure. Are you aware of his story?
No.
Where he hurt his neck during a game, got carried out on a stretcher, was paralyzed for a little bit
The
from the
linebacker
neck
a couple
down.
years ago.
Yes, and he wasn't supposed to ever walk again. And they had him to the point where he was doing box jumps, lifting again. I mean, he has a little bit of a limp now, but he's relatively normal. He's close to as normal as he's going to get. But they said he had no chance of walking again. I mean, he's a walking miracle, inspiration to everybody. There was even a kid at my high school, Hayden Hamilton, that had the same injury during his football game, and Ryan Shazier was helping out a lot with him. And Ryan Shazier started his own fund, and charity foundation to support people like this with neck injuries and back injuries and everything. And he's just doing as much as he can in the community. He's genuinely a great person, and to have the opportunity to wear his jersey out was great. But to answer your question, yeah, I'm a huge Steelers fan. Season's approaching, can't wait for it. And I don't know if I see you're a Packers fan.
Time.
So, yeah, Super Bowl a few years back. That was a great one.
For me, I just sticking your mouth a little bit there. A little bad taste.
Yeah. But it was a great game. It was a great game.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll see if Aaron Rodgers can get another one. I just hope before he retires, he wins at least one more for all the great things that he's done. But, I mean, who knows at this juncture, because it's starting to get a little late there in the career.
I mean, you better.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that Aaron Rodgers wins another one here before he retires. And I don't know if they're going to do it this year. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. I think people are kind of riding them out, the whole Devontae thing. But I think the Packers are going to surprise a lot of people this year. I think they're going to be better than expected.
You better with how much money you paid Aaron Rodgers. You fucking better. It's a lot of money, man. He better show something.
Well, that's where I always give Tom Brady a lot of credit too, because he always was willing to take the pay cuts to get a good team around them, whereas other players obviously don't do that. I wish, this would have been a great time for Rodgers to do it, but I guess
because he's getting so much money with endorsements and all the Super Bowl rings that he has, all the bonuses in the playoffs. His wife's rich. He's fine. He could be better off financially, but he's fine where he is. I'm sure he's making the investments. He's not worried about money. And at the end of the day, he's a competitor. He truly wants to win. So, it shows. I doubted it for the longest time. Honestly, I thought Peyton Manning was better, and statistically, it took him a lot less time to do what Tom Brady has. And it took Tom Brady a couple years to pass him up. They both had their injuries and stuff along the way. So you could argue that. Peyton Manning and Drew Brees are statistical phenoms. And Tom Brady is too, but he was, kind of like third tier compared to those two. But then you add the rings into it, all the wins, the clutch ability, and then the stats that he was able to build up over time still to, rival theirs. So now eventually pass them up. You can't deny he's the greatest ever.
Yeah, I've always been a big Tom Brady fan, a big Tom Brady supporter up until was that 2 years ago when they beat the Packers in the NFC Championship game. That one kind of left a little bit of a bad taste in the mouth that still stings a little bit. But yeah, irregardless, Tom Brady's definitely one of the best ever, and I think he summed up his career perfectly there with the way he said things. Anyway, I know the timer's starting to come on our Zoom session here, that they're going to start counting it down. We've been at this for a little while. So, as always, I appreciate the time. Before we roll out, though, go ahead and plug your social media so people know where to follow you at. You have any management sponsors you got to plug? Go ahead and do so. Take it away.
I'd like to thank all my sponsors, Aries Agencies, Scooter King, Armina Stone, LW Auto, David Allen, and one sponsor that I didn't get to make it on the banner because they restructured their sponsorships is Avid, Dan McVentures. He gave me a sponsorship this fight as well. I offered the money, everything else back, but he didn't want it. So he told me to donate it or do whatever I want, just keep it, whatever. So yeah, I mean, he's a great guy. They're all great people. They helped me out plenty along the way. So I really wouldn't be where I am without them. As for Instagram, you can follow me at Dalton Rosta. Same thing on my Twitter and my Facebook. And you follow her at Frenchie Athena on Instagram. She has her own Instagram too. But that's it, man.
All right, Dalton, thanks so much for all the time here today, man. Really appreciate it. Always a pleasure. And again, congratulations on that win. Biggest win of your career. Big things on the horizon for you. It'll be great to see, and we'll stay in touch, man. Again, thanks for doing this. Thanks for everybody that watched today's interview. If you liked it, please go to the bottom. Make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. And MyMMANews, make sure you guys are going to the website, checking out our great work that comes out there. And also, please go to our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Give us a follow and a like on there as well. We'll see you later, everybody.